Education is not what we get in our universities. Education is what happens to us after we get out of those universities. But preparing us to process what happens to us after we get out is what universities should do. And I'm sure Vice Chancellor Gopal Joshi, with the kind of interactions I've had with him for decades, will make this happen here. But more importantly, this search and belief that competence can come only from universities took me from place to place. I went to BITS Pilani, did my MPhil. I went to National Institute of Health and Family Welfare, did a public health program. I went to Harvard, did my public policy, public administration, did fellowships on leadership there, and realized they don't know enough. At least they didn't have answers to the questions I was struggling with. And I realized, how can people make such stupid policies, which actually disrupts life on the ground and doesn't make life better? So I thought, how stupid can a policymaker be? I need to understand the stupidity. And that took me to public policy. But then I realized I was looking for Western solutions to India's problems, without recognizing the merit of what we had. Unfortunately, my education was the city of Bangalore. I had never seen an Indian village until I decided to go live in it, or in the forest. And a rude awakening happened to me personally after I won the case against the government. I took the government to the Human Rights Commission and said the government of Karnataka and the government of India violated the rights of indigenous people by actually building 4 reservoirs around the land they lived in, where I went, and declaring the park a national park, which didn't even have the sanctity of a national park. In our country, things happen and none of us know, and none of us sitting in this room, I can guarantee you, would know anything about what I'm talking. And that is the tragedy of India today. We would know about the latest movie that got released. We would know about the cricket match that's happening right now. We would know about some actress and her child being born somewhere, and we'll read about it every day. But we don't recognize that in 1972, we brought in our declaration of intent of forming the national park in Bandipur, and people forgot about it. And 1985, somebody wakes up and notifies. Again, they only notify the declaration of intent, not the actual national park. And the 13 years, the forest department decides that national park is formed and drives out my tribals from the forest mercilessly outside, and everybody forgets them. I managed to reach that place only in 87, by which all the damage was done. And I started taking up a cause. If most of you as lawyers know, in the civil judiciary world, people don't take it. And so I had to take another route. I took the human rights route. And luckily for me, we had one of India's finest Chief Justices, who was also coincidentally my mentor, guide and guru, who wrote the foreword to my earlier book, I the Citizen. Justice M.N. Venkatachalaya was the Chief Justice of India. And fortunately, he also became the chairperson of the Human Rights Commission. So we decided to take the human rights route. And we sued the government for violating the rights of its own citizens. I won the battle. But that's when I thought I achieved a lot. And you can't win a battle in India. Beaten up, jailed, arrested, all that happened to me too. But then I still won the battle. And I come back in jubilation, sitting there thinking that I'm God now. And Kempaiah, the Yajamana, who possibly has found a reference in every book of mine except the latest book, every evening he would come to me. And that evening he came to me a very sad man, very disturbed man. And I was here thinking that Kempaiah will come and hug me and fall at my feet and say, oh, you saved our tribals. And instead of that, he said, you destroyed our tribals. And I was shocked. I said, instead of Hara Aktirang Kaitidde Bandoti Paitaidiri, I said in Kannada. I thought you will garland me. Instead, you're shouting at me. And he said, yes, you destroy, you will never understand. You urban people, your world operates in a different mental model. What we pride ourselves in is our relationship to Jal, Jungle and Jameen. And we never have individual ownership. What you did by winning this case is give each of us a house, our own 2.5 acres of land, and made us individual owners, because your government only understands individual rights. It can never understand community life at all. And so in your victory was our loss, he said. And then he also said, I have an identity which you made us lose today. Adivasi Tattva, the identity of a tribal, you took it away. And you'll never understand, because what identity do you have? He asked me this powerful question. And if I were to ask each of you to ask that question, you can say, I'm a professional, I'm a chartered accountant, I'm an industrialist. We'll struggle to say what is why. I could never answer him. Should I say I'm from Bangalore and so my identity is a Bangalorean? Or should I say my education was in Mysore and so I'm a Mysorean? Or could I say that I'm a Kannadiga, born to Tamilian parents and therefore I have identities of both? Or should I say I'm a professional doctor and therefore my identity is medicine, or public policy is my identity, or Harvard gives me identity? We borrow identities without recognizing the greatest identity everybody in this room has got is the Bharatiya identity. And we don't even understand that. हम सब भारतीय हैं. We say I'm Maharashtrian and within Maharashtra Vidarbha region से हूँ, Marathwada region से हूँ. We separate. We have learned the art of fragmenting which the British gave us and we have perfected it today. We fragment by caste, by religion, by name, by gender, by every qualification that we can acquire, but we never unite. India is about living together. That is the greatness of India. And when you asked me that question, I thought, how do I gain this Bharatiya identity? And that's when I started going deep 20 years ago into appreciating it. I started small, started reading I said I couldn't learn leadership at Harvard, which everybody says the best place to learn it from. I did learn, but I didn't answer my question. So I thought, let me learn leadership from my identity. And went into Panchatantra, started reading the Jataka tales. Today, we teach our children Amar Chitrakatha comics. We got to crowd out our colonial thinking by the Bharatiya thinking, and that's what this book is all about. This book is to tell the world that leadership is not something we have to import from the West. We can export it, and that's what the world needs today. The world is such a mess. And my understanding of the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, I decided I will reframe it to the leadership lens. And I've done my own attempt. I'm not saying this is the perfect attempt or this will be the only attempt. Lot more people will do it. Every chapter there, one of my colleagues at Cornell told me, is a PhD, 5-6 PhDs in hiding. And that's exactly the reason why the book has been written. People should go deep into it. And even simple things that I can tell you is, I've written about Sadharanikaran. Today, anywhere in the world, when we teach communication, we say that what I'm doing right now, I am the person who's encoding what I want to say, and I use the medium of language and speech in English, and you people listen to it and your brain decodes it the way you have to decode it, and you make meaning out of it. And if your mind is preoccupied with some other nonsense or some other thoughts that you already had about communication, that is the noise that we talk about. And we credit it to semiotic school of communication, dispersive theory of communication, participatory models of the West. I've written all of them here in my book. But more importantly, I say all those are only 100 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old. Sadharanikaran, my friends, is 3,000 years old. It comes from Bharata's Natya Shastra. And the way he describes rasa and all bhava and all that, it's so beautiful. He talks about saharidayata in communication. Otto Schwammer from MIT talks about 4 levels of listening, and we all think it's great. He talks about listening at the highest level being a co-generative listening, the Advaitic listening, and Bharata described it 3,000 years ago. But we don't credit Bharata with that, nor do we even understand that. So this book is bringing out how do we communicate, how do we listen, how does the Gita talk about it. How real Bhagavad Gita is not Bhagavan Krishna. Bhagavad Gita is a collaborative outcome of the Vishada of Arjuna that started it. We never credit Arjuna's failure as a leader being the primary reason for the Bhagavad Gita itself. Now, without Arjuna, there is no Krishna's leader. And look at Krishna. The power of leadership in this message. Krishna is God. Everybody knew it. But he was a charioteer in his mind. He's very clear. I'm myself Sarathi. And when the Sarathi's work is incomplete by Arjuna suffers and says that, I don't know what to do next. The role of Krishna grows into a mentor. It grows into a counselor. Now, real leadership is ability to differentiate role from self. That is what India taught the world. Leadership is not about position. It's not about authority. It's not about being the chief minister or president of a country. It's about understanding the work at the center and that I'm only an instrument through which that work gets done. In India, we never celebrated the person. The Western world understands leadership as an expression of aham. Our country understood leadership as sublimation of the aham. Archie Brown writes in The Myth of a Strong Leader that he describes that cannot be a strong leader. It is dangerous for any country. And in India, we celebrate leaders not from the strength that they understand, because their strength is power without. If I say something and you do it, I have great power over you. And we talk about power within. So I write about how in Mahabharata, the conversation between Bhishma and Yudhishthira on Bhishma's deathbed, And Yudhishthira comes to him and says, the war is over, everybody is killed. No, I have still run a country. And that is a conversation which is the Rajya Dharma that we spoke about. The 10 tenets that Bhishma gave is still relevant today anywhere in the world. And today you talk to World Bank, they'll give you 8 principles of good governance. Bhishma gave us 10 tenets. And if we can live that, this country will be good. From ecology to economy to welfare, everything is there in that. We have to take pride in it. And you think Mahabharata is not the only treatise. Ramayana, Bharata is going behind Rama to the forest, asking him to come back. And he says, you have done your dharma as a son and you're going away. But who's going to do the dharma of a king? You can't thrust the dharma of a king on me. Because I was a chota boy, I was a little kid, spoilt and pampered by all of you. You were trained, you were coronated. It's your damn responsibility to rule the country and you can't just dump it on me and go away. But then he said, okay, I'll take the Paduka as a representative. The representativeness started then. Today we talk about representative democracy in the world. And they tell us we are not a democracy. What a joke. People were nervous in America. If the election results were not good enough, there will be civil war. Our country, it never happens. We run the largest democracy in the world, our panchayat elections. Now millions of people get elected all over the country and power changes. We don't even notice it. And people give us lectures on human rights and democracy. What nonsense is this? And we take it. Because our mind is trained to believe we can't be great. They have to tell us we are great. We are waiting for that. We don't tell the world we are great ourselves, and we are. This book is an attempt to do that. So Bharata and Rama's conversation, Valmiki describes it so beautifully. The classic on governance, good governance, is that conversation. I request my friends here to go back and read them. Take pride. You will understand thousands of years ago, even if Ramayana did not happen, even if Rama is not God, even if we were to say Krishna never existed, some human being existed to write that, right? What greatness it was, what creativity, what knowledge it was. We have to celebrate Bharatiya wisdom. And Kautilya doesn't have time for all this. He is a very man in rapid urgency. He is very scientific, incisive and direct. He simply says, he doesn't give stories, he doesn't give explanations. He says the ruler, Rajya Dharma is for him only 2 things, Loka Sangraha and Yoga Kshema. And for that he says this cannot happen if the ruler doesn't practice Indriya Vijaya. He doesn't become an Indriya Vijayi. Indriya Nigraha is the only way. The world is about expressing and manifesting your sensual attainments outside. Our world and civilization wisdom is about the power of Indriya Vijayi from the inside. So for us it's power within. So Archie Brown and others should understand your metric is wrong. Because you measure it as power without, try measuring it as power within. And that power that Vivekananda says is a dynamo waiting inside is the power that you all have to unleash. And you can unleash it anywhere because it's not about being a leader. You can never be a leader, but you can exercise leadership. Leadership is that activity which you can do for society and society's progress. So for us, it was never about me. It is always about the work getting done. It is not about I doing the work. It is not about I fighting corruption and therefore becoming the chief minister of a state. It's about corruption getting fought. And that's a huge difference, my friends. One builds your aham, the second dissolves it. Leadership is about that, and that's what India can take to the world. So when I wrote and did my research, it was huge research. I put all of it together. It's a lot of books, but one book has come out now. I went to my Guru Swami Sureshanji, who was alive at that time, and told him, I have discovered so much, but I don't think one human being can live all this. And Swamiji looked at me and said, I don't know all that. Advaitad ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಪ್ಪ ನಾನು. ಶಂಕರಾಚಾರ್ಯರ ಆತ್ಮಬೋಧ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ. I'll teach you Shankaracharya's ಆತ್ಮಬೋಧ, but I cannot teach you leadership. You have to find your own ways of learning it. But he said, one young man had come to the Ramakrishna mission in Rajkot. He came to Belur Math also. He insisted he should join the order as a monk. And the then president of the Rajkot ashram turned him away twice. And third time he told him, your destiny is something else, far greater than a sannyasi. Follow your destiny. This is not your life. And luckily he told him that, and today he is the Prime Minister of this country. And at that time he said, study his life. He was Chief Minister then. He said, go study his life. If it aligns, you can write about him. So I thought he's so far away, I'm in a forest, I have no access. How can I even write about him? So I gave up. I wrote another book, Leadership Lessons for Daily Living. Ordinary, what we dismiss of as ordinary people, extraordinary acts of leadership aligned to this thinking of ordinary people, the auto driver, the street vendor, the self-help group woman, the tribal Yajamana, and my own Guru Swami Sureshananda, all of their leaderships. And then forgot about it. But then 3.5 years ago when the call came from Delhi, I said yes to it, and this commission reports to him, and watching him, reporting to him, seeing him in action, sitting in his meetings and looking at the extraordinary leadership that he exercises. What you see on the television is noise. Most of us see the politician Narendra Modi. I've had the privilege of working with the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And that told me that there is so much of what I discovered in the Bharatiya Parampara and the traditions and the wisdom that this man lives. And there is a flesh and blood example. Whenever we talk of the past, we say Rama was like that, Yudhishthira was like this. It's very easy to write about all that. But today's generation wants a life and blood example. A young man wanting to be a monk gives it up. 50 years of public service with one consistent theme of seva. Where did it come from? I would write that example, how it happened. 6 or 7 years old, as a young child in a village in Gujarat, and one death of a child, how it changed his life. And that I write and narrate, and that's how the crucible moment for him started. And then as a pracharak, as a organizing secretary of a party, different roles he has played, and he plays different roles now also. During election campaigning, is a role of a political party man. When running the country is a different role altogether. Understanding like Krishna to differentiate these roles. Playing the dharma of the role at that moment of time. That's what India teaches.